Greetings, I'm your host, Dr. Wolfula, and when I'm not watching what I think is the worst Hatchet movie, only to find out there's an even worse one after it, I'm here at the Wolfula RiffViewing movies. Alright, we've finally reached the end of the Hatchet franchise with the subject of this video, Victor Crowley, released in 2017. At least, this is the final Hatchet film to date. Who knows what the future has in store for us? Anyway, the fourth Hatchet film was made to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the original film's release, with Adam Green returning as director after his arbitrary absence directing Hatchet 3. Now you'd think that with the fourth film being titled Victor Crowley instead of Hatchet 4, it'd naturally be a reboot of the franchise, starting a brand new storyline, but it isn't. And you'd think since it's a 10th anniversary film, it'd also naturally go back to the darker, gorier slasher roots of the original Hatchet, but it also doesn't. Additionally, Victor Crowley manages to be the worst film in the franchise. That doesn't feel like it should be possible after Hatchet 3, but I'll explain how they managed to do it in my RiffView. Victor Crowley begins with the most awkward opening ever, and not just because it involves Jonah Ray.
You're so romantic, Dale, the most.
How romantic?
You're a germ.
It's 1964 in Honey Island Swamp. A man named Dale proposes to his sweetheart named Sue, who is so overjoyed by this act that she sobs uncontrollably, giving Heather Donahue a run for her money with all the tears and snot.
Did I get it?
Oh, damn it, Sue, come on!
What is it?
It's such an over-the-top gag to start the movie off with and sets a bleak tone for the rest of the film as the snot-covered Snoo kisses Jonah Ray.
Oh.
What is this, a scary movie sequel?
We're gonna get married and everything's gonna be perfect forever and ever.
This is the director barely disguising his snot fetish as a gag. Why else would someone want to film this and subject it to people? The couple thankfully hears Victor Crowley's howls in the swamp, however, and decides to investigate the noises, hopefully being killed in the process, and they eventually run into former Michael Myers actor Tyler Mane.
The hell you doing out here? Where'd you come from?
Oh no, if you're an actor in a Hatchet film that played a better horror icon than Kane Hodder's Victor Crowley, it's a fucking death sentence.
Let me give you a word of advice and listen close, because it might just save your life someday. Never!
See, I told you so! Man, 10 years later and they aren't even trying anymore with the gore.
Oh, fuck.
The late special effects artist John Carl Buechler leaving this franchise after the first film was the worst thing that could have ever happened to it.
Y'all gonna die.
At least that gross bitch Sue is put out to pasture, but Victor dismembers her, much in the same way he dismembered that one cop in the last movie who blew up his house, but worse. Well, this is the 60s though, so it's technically chronologically the first time he did it. He's still workshopping it. Now, this movie taking place in the 60s would have been cool. A rare slasher film that's a period piece, a prequel that could explore the early days of Victor Crowley's murderous hauntings in the Louisiana swamps. But this franchise isn't about cool story ideas. No, the 60s opening is just a flashback. The rest of the film takes place in the present day, so you're probably wondering what this snotty 60s flashback had to do with the rest of the film's plot. And the answer is absolutely nothing. It was only added in to have some kills early on because Victor Crowley doesn't appear again until 45 minutes into the movie. After a PowerPoint presentation narrated by a creepy little girl recapping Victor Crowley's origin story again,
you can still hear Victor Crowley roaming in the bayou, crying for his daddy.
the real story begins, and I use the term story loosely as we're treated to a daytime talk show for chicks called Sabrina.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Welcome back, welcome back.
Tyra Banks is in this movie?
My guest today is the lone survivor of the horrific Honey Island Swamp Massacre that happened 10 years ago this month.
This movie really shows off its budget with the talk show set, which looks like a basement with some tacky furniture stolen from a Big Lots. Holy shit, this is grim. But hey, at least Andrew is back. That's right, the survivor of Hatchet 3, our favorite character Andrew, is now the star of the franchise. Ah, fuck yes! In your face, Danielle Harris.
The first few years were tough. having to basically relive the whole thing over and over again every single day.
Anyway, in the wake of surviving the 2007 Crowley murders through sheer cowardice, Andrew has written a book on his account 10 years later, but unfortunately Sabrina, the host of the show he's promoting the book on, is also Andrew's ex-wife, who alludes to Andrew probably being the actual murderer of dozens of people in that swamp.
You are like the O.J. Simpson of Honey Island Swamp, wouldn't you say?
No.
Even though he was exonerated of all the killings and couldn't have conceivably killed a heavily armed SWAT unit single-handedly, and Andrew wasn't even present for the first 2 waves of killings unless you count his 2 murdered doppelgangers, but still, everyone believes that Andrew is the real killer.
Many still believe that you are the Bayou Butcher.
The first third of the film basically plays out as the Dr. Loomis subplot from Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, where he's promoting a book in the wake of mass killings, but it's done so much worse here, and those Dr. Loomis scenes were the worst parts of Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, so that's really saying something.
His name was Chad, and he was my brother, and you murdered him!
Your monster killed her. Wait. No. He butchered her.
I mean, when you're having the main character do a book signing where a fat guy whips out his tiny dick and asks the main character to sign it...
Sorry, I don't sign those.
What are you, homophobic?
You're not only going out of your way to write a movie worse than Rob Zombie could, but also actively making your audience want to immediately turn off your movie, unless, of course, they didn't turn it off during that opening. Dear God!
I'm telling everybody on the Facebook that you're a homophobe.
The movie isn't just about Andrew on his book tour, though, but I wish it was. An obsessive fan of Andrew's by the name of Chloe is trying to meet the survivor of Victor Crowley's murders.
I want to have 15 babies with him.
Not just to have 15 babies with him, but also so she and her boyfriend Alex can make their own ultra-low-budget movie about Andrew's ordeal in the Honey Island swamp.
We'll be going to premieres, Hollywood parties.
Andrew Young is not a celebrity.
The couple is also joined in this quest by a third wheel named Rose, Chloe's best friend, and what a good friend she is.
They're just boobs, Chloe.
Friends aren't supposed to see each other naked this much.
I'm okay with it.
Man, this film's got some real sitcom-y dialogue, dear God. Part of the gang's plan to woo Andrew to appear in their film is terribly cosplaying murder victims.
I got the face wrong, didn't I?
How cute. Now, if you're wondering if this movie has any other notable cameos from horror icons in it like the previous 3 films, I'm afraid Felissa Rose, aka Angela from Sleepaway Camp, playing Andrew's doped-up publicist Kathleen, is as big as it gets. And she doesn't even show her dick in this movie. Ah, what a ripoff.
It's a good book. It's an amazing book. Everyone in the world is gonna love it. How could they not?
Speaking of ripoffs, right as Chloe and her crew approach Andrew during his book signing, Kathleen whisks Andrew away for an urgent matter of ambiguous nature.
No, but we flew a long way to be here.
Well, that's really great, but the autograph session is done.
Good thing. The public library they used for this bookstore set was gonna close in about 5 minutes.
Sorry.
Kathleen got Andrew a gig on a network true crime show, but he refuses to return to the swamp where he almost died to do an interview.
I'm not doing an interview at the site of the murders.
Yes, we are. And we need to hurry up.
Over my dead body and my golden neck.
Until he's told that he'll be making $1 million.
But I got them up to $1 million.
Wow, that's 1,000 times this movie's budget. Now, if you thought this movie couldn't look any more low budget, get a load of this fucking airplane set. Man, the airplane set in Plan 9 from Outer Space puts this movie's to shame. At least Plan 9 had stock footage of the outside of a plane.
I didn't realize you were so scared of flying.
I'm not scared of flying. I'm scared of what's in that swamp.
The chairs on this private plane don't just look shitty, but they also don't match each other. They have different arms, cushions, heights, and shades of blue. Like the production designer just scrounged together whatever sun-faded furniture they could find at the local thrift store. Now, you're probably wondering, Doc, why are you complaining so much about the airplane set in this movie? Because at least 75% of this movie takes place on this fucking plane. I am not joking. I wish I was. Basically, if most of your movie takes place in a certain kind of set, make sure it looks good and convincing, especially if you're gonna give yourself a cameo as the pilot.
How do we land in the water?
This aircraft doesn't do water landings. No.
It's here on this plane where we meet the film's cast of victims, including Andrew's ex-wife. Tyra Banks is in this movie?
You were really there when all that crazy shit went down 10 years ago?
I don't really have much to say about any of these TV crew characters before their eventual deaths. They're all just there, the lowest effort characters in the history of this franchise, which is saying something. I must say that even though the gay makeup artist, being a huge fan of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, is never brought up, he still dresses as if he's going to be attending a shadow cast later tonight.
What, who, me? No, I'm just here to make you look fabulous real quick, so...
The plane trip aspect of the film doesn't even make any sense, because the film crew and Andrew are both at this bookstore together at the same time, and they're both headed to Honey Island Swamp. But apparently Honey Island Swamp is close enough to the bookstore that the film crew beats Andrew and the TV crew to the swamp. Why did Andrew and the TV crew need to take a private plane if the swamp is so close that driving to it is faster? It's like nobody proofread this screenplay.
We're flying in because we're getting footage of you looking down at the spot at magic hour, you know, right as the sun sets.
I wasn't asking you.
Down in Honey Island Swamp, the fucking Blair Witch Project over here is still trying to get their Victor Crowley movie off the ground, where they meet their tour guide and wannabe actor Dylan McMaster, played by the guy who was Special Officer Doofy from Scary Movie.
It's me, Christopher Walken.
Man, I would have thought playing a mentally handicapped police officer would have made this guy a superstar. At least an Oscar nomination.
Mom says when I wear this badge, you're supposed to treat me like a man of the law.
Yeah, well, Mom also said for you to stop sticking your dick in the vacuum cleaner.
I'm still workshopping that one. What's up?
As the gang prepares to shoot their movie, Rose looks up multiple tutorials on how to say the voodoo curse that created Victor Crowley, including one recited by the late Reverend Zombie. And I'm pretty sure the makers of this film got this footage through Tony Todd's Cameo page.
The curse created Victor Crowley.
Meanwhile, back on the plane, it hits a little bit of turbulence. Okay, maybe not a little, maybe a lot. I can't tell if this guy's dead. Can somebody check for me?
Oh. He's dead.
Oh no! Now, if you're thinking we're gonna finally see something cool, a plane crash in this movie, the answer is no. It's only heard off screen.
That sounded like a plane crash.
Andrew's fee to appear in this movie was $1 million. They couldn't afford to show the plane crash after his cut. I know what you're all most concerned about, but don't worry. Andrew survived the crash. Oh, thank God. And hey, you know, he can still do that interview in Honey Island Swamp. The TV crew just needs to finish waking up from their naps.
Wake up!
Are we there?
Hey, even the makeup artist survived the crash. Well, his legs, at least. He was a bottom anyway.
What happened?
We crashed.
Tyra Banks is in this movie? Dylan and Rose come to the aid of the crash survivors, but there's a bit of a hitch in the rescue. The pregnant Casey here is trapped under what I guess is the safety harness of a roller coaster, and the gang can't get her out as water increasingly floods the plane.
We have to make it.
And you and I will.
Me and little you.
To make matters worse, Andrew's Victor Crowley senses are tingling.
Back on the plane. Now!
And he forces the survivors back into the plane by, well, force. But the thing is...
You have to get off the plane right now or Casey's gonna drown.
No one gets out of the plane!
The more people are on the plane, the faster it floods, murdering a drowning pregnant woman in the process, and Dylan isn't allowed to retrieve the tools necessary to save her in time.
There's too much weight, we're just making it sink faster.
So go back outside!
If we go out there, we all die!
Yes, the movie illustrates Andrew's selfish cowardice by having him essentially drown a pregnant woman to death just so he can stay on the plane as long as possible to survive.
Wait here to die and watch Casey drown under her own weight?
No!
And yes, the movie shows us a pregnant woman slowly drowning to death over the course of an hour. I know what you're thinking. Yeah, this is a fucking badass slasher movie kill. Savage as fuck! Victor Crowley seemed to have been made last minute to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the series. It also obviously has the lowest budget of the franchise at $400,000, compared to the $1 million or $2 million that the original trilogy films had to work with. Consequently, it's clear that Adam Green needed to save money by having as much of the film as possible take place in this airplane set, so he probably only added the detail of a pregnant woman drowning to death inside the plane to add some drama to the scenes within the plane so it isn't, you know, just watching people sit in a tube for an hour. But the problem is that the pregnant woman drowning doesn't add much conflict at all to these scenes. The characters barely put up any resistance against Andrew's insistence to stay on the plane.
Fuck this!
Instead of seek help for themselves and the woman drowning, Casey barely makes much of a fuss about slowly dying. Somehow this movie makes the situation of a pregnant woman drowning to death really boring.
I want to save you, Case.
Please, Austin, just stay here.
Meanwhile, other boring stuff is happening, with Chloe and Zach still traumatized by that fake-looking dead body that fell from the plane they didn't see crash earlier.
I don't want to be here.
Come on, let's see if we can go.
The couple discovers the former site of Victor Crowley's shack, and after hearing somebody out in the swamp having a mind-blowing orgasm, they hide inside a nearby shed. Zach displaying his expert prowess as a skilled hider by standing directly in front of the shed's open door.
Baby, I need you to calm down, okay? There's nothing out there.
Victor Crowley's not gonna find them. Oh, okay, how is this possible? They hid so well! Victor shakes Zach around like he's a 6-foot can of blood soda and finally pops the top. Chloe passively watches her boyfriend's brutal murder and then decides to run away. That's very sporting, not giving yourself a head start, and speaking of heads, Chloe meets the folks at the plane head first. Anyway, Felissa Rose panics and heads out of the plane to the calming safety of a serial killer's swamp. Austin proceeds to shut the door because it's letting all the cold air out.
Oh, shit!
Casey's boyfriend Austin's scalp fell in her face. That's funny. She's still drowning to death, too.
What's going on? Austin!
Next, Victor pries off the fake arm Felissa Rose was using to keep all that pasta sauce from flying out of her sweater. There's a right way to fist somebody and a wrong way to fist them, and this is the right way. Oh, Rose, you are such a prude. Whatever, Victor finally crushes Chloe's head like a bottle at a Jewish wedding. Oh my god, he killed Chloe!
You bastard!
Things get even more fun as the pregnant woman drowns to death.
Ah!
Finally, took her long enough, damn. To make matters worse, Victor Crowley has a belt sander, the hull of an airplane's worst enemy. But Andrew, Rose, and Tyra Banks sneak out of the plane, leaving Dylan behind to die trying to call for immediate help with a crashed airplane's radio like a jackass.
All right, I'm serious. Can anyone hear me? We need help.
Only managing to turn the turbine on. Rose hides up in a tree, but makes the fatal mistake of crying a single tear. Thankfully, Victor, like a dog, is unable to look up, but is able to find... Wait, Tyra Banks is in this movie? Well, I guess she isn't anymore. Victor throws Rose for a loop, but thankfully Andrew hits Victor with a flare gun instead of using it earlier to call for rescue.
Though she be but little, she is fierce.
Luckily, Victor stands passively as Rose and Andrew fling one-liners at him without actual results.
Go to hell, you ugly bastard!
It's nice that Victor had the patience to sit through that shit. Ultimately, Dylan nobly sacrifices himself, pushing Victor into the plane turbine. Wow, Rose is a lot sadder about that guy she just met a few hours ago dying than she was about her best friend dying. Damn. If that's too abrupt of an ending for you, don't worry. There's a mid-credits scene with a totally real-looking news program reporting on the newest killings that Andrew thankfully survived, and he wasn't the only one who survived Hatchet 3. Yup, Danielle Harris survived being impaled in the last film and is ready to return in a sequel that hopefully will be at least as well made as the first movie, or just not made at all.
I've been waiting for you, motherfucker.
Victor Crowley is easily the worst of the Hatchet franchise, but it feels like it wasn't even intended to be a full-blown Hatchet sequel, just something to tide fans over until a real Hatchet 4 is made, and it sets up the story of a fourth film. But when I saw the poster of this movie, I totally thought it was supposed to be a return to form for this franchise. I like the first two films quite a bit, but the fourth film is just a rushed, cheap, generic slasher movie that's over-reliant on really hacky jokes and characters sitting in a plane brain instead of wall-to-wall mayhem. The Hatchet movies are all each about 75 minutes long without credits, so I don't know why it has to take 45 minutes besides the cold openings before Victor Crowley actually kills somebody in these movies. Well, at least I'm finally done with the Hatchet series. For now, I give Victor Crowley a Tyra Banks out of Andrew. Oh, my precious Andrew. Wait, Tyra Banks was in this movie?
You looking at me? It's talking. Are you looking at me?
This video is made possible through the pledges of my Patreon supporters, and I'd like to give a very special thanks to the kind folks pledged to my shoutouts tier. All of the support on Patreon means a lot to me, and it helps my dark influence continue to grow. If you like this video, like it, and if you loved it, click the subscribe and bell buttons for more vids. Be sure to also keep in touch by following me on social media at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Dr. Wolfula. While I still have your attention, consider pledging to my Patreon to support the channel and get bonus content like previews, VIP Discord server access, private movie night streams, and credits in videos. Consider pledging at patreon.com/Dr. Wolfula. Also, check out official Dr. Wolfula t-shirts and other merch on tpublic.com/user/Dr. Wolfula. Thanks for watching. See you all next time. Dr. Wolfula signing out.